morning and welcome to our UU Holton weekly service online edition, coming to you from the Unitarian Parlor, the cozy Unitarian Parlor, may I say, right here in Holton, Maine. We've been in a deep freeze for the past couple of days, so today's service includes a lot of hot liquids, but also a nod to winter and cold. And we're also continuing our series on belonging. We're up to part 7 at this point, with a talk titled Building Community. Linda and I were on retreat last fall at Santosha on the Carrabassett Yoga and Conference Center in Kingfield, Maine, and I will share part of that experience and how it relates to our sense of community. While on retreat, I interviewed J.B. Chaim, founder of Santosha, and I will share some of that content in the service as well. That's just a bit of what we have in store for today. Thank you for joining us on this cold day. I hope you are warm where you are. And thank you for spending part of your day with us. For Prelude this morning, I went online and I was trying to find a video with winter theme in it. And this is from Nora. She's born in South Africa, has family ties, and actually lives at this point in Switzerland. And this is where this video was taken today. She's a sound artist and composer of a genre known as tech house music. And her weekly radio show, Purified, holds a Saturday evening time slot on Sirius XM Radio. So, the location, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this properly, is Graubunden, Switzerland?
Graubunden.
Say that a little louder, Scott.
Graubunden.
Thank you. This is our prelude for this morning. A nod to winter and cold. It looked cold there, but she had no hat on, no gloves turning knobs as she was composing. They compose music as they go for these particular productions. So I think we're more well bundled here inside the parlor than she was over here switching. For our moment of centering silence, breathe in the positive. Welcome the good. Embrace what is optimistic and enlarging. Breathe out the negative. Release stress or tension you might feel and replace it with the spaciousness of this fresh winter moment. With the what that is right here. Sit with just this and listen to the sound of the chime. Chalice this morning. It may even give us a little additional BTUs of heat in the room. We'll also be lighting candles in a little while. That also may help. So Cindy, you're closest this morning to the chalice. If you would please transfer the flame to our chalice. May the light of this chalice give light and warmth to our community. When we are joyful and when we despair, and may we feel the warmth spread from our circle to wider and wider circles until all and everyone know that they belong to the one large circle of life. Opening words this morning are from John Ruskin, 19th century English writer, philosopher, and art critic. And this is his prayer on, again, nature in winter. There is religion in everything around us. A calm and holy religion in the unbreathing things in nature. It is a meek and blessed influence stealing in, as it were, upon our own heart. It comes quickly and without excitement. It is untrammeled by creeds. It is unwritten on the cold arched sky. It looks out from every star. It is on the sailing cloud and in the invisible wind. It's among the hills and the valleys of the earth. It is the poetry of nature. It is that which uplifts the spirit within us and which opens to our imagination a world of spiritual beauty and openness. haven't sung this song in a while. It's one of our favorite and most well-sung songs here, number 123, Spirit of Life. And there's 2 additional verses to this song, and Karen, you hold your book up again. It's on the back
I
cover.
think I have distributed it already to everyone.
Okay, because some hymn books don't have it in it. So you may, if it doesn't, check the book next to you. It's a little glue-on insert. And Holton, UU Holton is the only congregation in the United States that has a second and third verse to this, because it was written by a member of ours years ago, back in the 90s. Karen New and myself, Lee Armin, would have been Jerry Armin's husband, long-term peace activist here, and writer, poet. And we've never submitted this to the UUA to see. I'm not sure how Carolyn McDade would feel about 2 additional verses. Karen?
I understand it was suggested, but they kind of...
So we're just going to keep it to ourselves.
Yeah.
It'll be on our YouTube channel. So let us sing all verses of Spirit of Life. Are we going to stand? Go ahead. Let's stand. Just to move around and warm up a little bit. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the streams of compassion, flow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, whose holy cross brings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of one, come unto me. Breathe in my soul all the lives the wind is sharing. Flow now as one, swell into one, stirring each time, giving shades of God in oneness. One stands aware, all in unity. Spirit of one, come to me, come to me. Spirit of love, come unto me. Move in my hand to respond to love and passions, flow through the world. I live as one giving shape to our relations, love reaching out, now fully free. Spirit of love, come to me, come to me. This first candle, I bring greetings to UU Holton from Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor, Maine, which I had the privilege of visiting. Linda and I last weekend go down and to fill in for sabbatical coverage for my colleague, Reverend Drew Muller. So it was a delightful experience, to meet more UUs. Beautiful space. It's the old Universalist church on the hill overlooking Bangor. When the two churches merged, the Unitarian and the Universalist, they had to select a building as they merged the two congregations. Beautiful stained glass windows, beautiful music, piano, acoustics, and they would be the closest geographical UU congregation in the continental United States to us. Fredericton's a little closer mileage-wise. So it just feels good to have those connections in our area, to know that we share similar values, stories, and smiling faces.
I'm going to share a candle of both joy and concern, and just a really quick segue, because of an association with Holton. When I was a teenager, and my family and myself were getting into horses, we came to an event, a small backyard horse show here in Holton. Does anyone remember Aunt Ruthie Moore that had a horse farm outside of town? So it was at Ruth Moore's, and there was a young woman, a woman my age, a girl my age, there from Fort Fairfield, and her horses were so beautiful and they were so perfectly presented. My father said, "Come on, we're going to go over and meet her." Well, it started a lifelong friendship. Her name was Vicky Bishop, and later, we've always been friends, but later when I was a professional horse trainer, she was my farrier, and I was probably the only horse trainer on the face of the earth that had this female farrier. And then we took her to all the events with us, and when she was there, she looked after details, and I knew I didn't have to. Anyway, I moved on. I haven't seen her for 20 years, and I got a phone call last week from a mutual friend that she has cancer in her brain and not long to live. And I need to make a confession. I've never been very good at handling people's imminent death. And also, there's the regrets of why haven't we talked for 20 years. And I got a really great message, because I did pick up the phone and call her. We talked for about an hour. We went down memory lanes, and I didn't even know if her condition would allow her to have this conversation. She remembered everything. We laughed our heads off, and it was a great lesson that you can always reconnect. And I feel so blessed that I had that time with her yesterday, and more time throughout my entire life. So this is perfect.
Donahue's family. She lost her grandson in Caribou. A week or so ago, there was a couple of bad fires up there, and one of the casualties was her grandson, 30 years old. One of you probably know Dorothy. She worked in Holton High School library for years. That's her grandson. Candle of Joy, celebrating two granddaughters. One is 19, Carolyn's second child. She's very much special need, and she goes to a special school in Brunswick, and she just started a job
She works 1 hour a week at a center for special needs people cleaning with a helper, and she is thrilled to do that. And the other is for another granddaughter who's going to be 18 in June, Carrie's daughter, and she was just named valedictorian for Morse High School class, and just the next day found out that she was accepted into a prestigious school in Brunswick, Maine. And we are thrilled, and that information came on Jim's birthday, so that was a wonderful birthday present.
When was Jim's birthday?
Thursday.
Oh,
Wow,
we
we're
need
gonna
to
do birthday.
light a candle and sing a song. Give us the milk, Gail.
And it was number 90.
Happy birthday to you.
You, Jim.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
And many more.
Thank you.
And the rest of what I was going to say is, good for young people, 2 young ladies working to capacity wherever you are at. So let's all do our best, always. That was a message that I forgot.
This is a candle of happiness, but despite Mount Washington having reached the coldest temperatures like ever in the continental United States or America, and the stratosphere came all the way down, but the sky didn't fall. It's much warmer today. Hopefully that was it.
I want to light this candle of appreciation for Bill Wright, who did some work on our rocking chair. Do you have a leaf over here? It's been repaired, and the arm is much sturdier. It's a beautiful old chair. So, so thank you, Bill. You brought it back in this morning. And we're lighting this silent candle for unspoken prayers this morning, for people we know, for our world, for those needing heat security and food security during this cold time of year in the state of Maine and other cold cities. And any names we want to bring into our circle today, please share those.
Lucas.
Lance. Alyssa.
In this world of contention, struggle, and yet incredible beauty, we offered our prayers for healing, good health, and sound mind. May all find their basic needs supplied: food, shelter, heat, safety, and basic dignity. May each of us be mindful not only of our own needs, but of the needs of others as well. This is our heartfelt prayer on this day. May it be so. Amen. And blessed. Our group reading this morning is number 543. And this is what you would call a difficult reading. In seminary days, we come across passages of scripture that are simply categorized as a difficult reading. This is titled Winter, and after what we've been through the past several days, it's a difficult reading, but I think it will help us to read it as a group on this cold winter day. Let us not wish away the winter. It is a season to itself, not simply the way to spring.
The trees rest, growing no leaves, gathering no light, the dead sky, and traces themselves delicately against dawns and sunsets.
The clarity and brilliance of the winter sky delight. The gloom of fog softens edges, lulls the eyes and ears of quiet, awakens by risk the unquiet. A low dark sky can snow, emblem of individuality, liberality, and aggregate power. Snow invites to contemplation and to sport.
Winter is a table set with ice and sorrow.
And a full moon tonight. Winter dark tends to warm light, fire and candle. Winter cold to hugs and cuddles. Winter want to gifts and sharing. Winter danger to visions, plans, and common endeavor. And the zest of narrow escapes. Winter tedium to merrymaking.
Let us therefore praise winter, rich in beauty, challenge, and permanent activities.
Hopefully we won't have to do that reading again this winter. We'll see. Got a short PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to look at the interview on YouTube. So, Linda and I recently spent 3 days and 2 nights at Santosha on the Carrabassett Yoga and Mindfulness Retreat Center located in Kingfield, Maine. And I failed to mention that it was absolutely free, with the exception of healing art sessions, alcoholic beverages, and gratuities. Santosha sent out over 200 letters to yoga teachers in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, inviting them and a partner, which is Lytle, or fellow yoga teachers, to join them for all expense-paid retreat and introduction to what Santosha on the Carrabassett had to offer, which had just opened this past fall. Out of the 200 people who received letters, 19 responded. In the opening circle, as we checked in, many of the retreatants expressed their initial hesitancy to reply, thinking that this had to be some sort of a scam. Linda and I were the first ones to respond. And we got the best room at Santosha. This remarkably unexpected and generous offer set the tone for the entire stay. And I'm having trouble with this. I want to go back. I don't know how to reverse. Okay. Oh, actually, it did. It did. Okay. Santosha is housed at Hill Home, a grand turn-of-the-century Georgian revival mansion located on a hill overlooking Kingfield with scenic views of Maine's western mountains. Hill Home was built in 1895 on Winter's Hill for Amos G. Winter, a local grain merchant and owner of a general store in downtown Kingfield. Winter was close friends with Freeland and Francis Stanley, inventors of the Stanley steamer. And they moved to Boston shortly after, working on the Stanley steamer. And they were also originally from Kingfield. As the story goes, upon returning from a hunting trip, Freeland asked Winter if he had anything planned for the afternoon. When Winter replied in the negative, Freeland said, "Let's go build a house on the hill." And this is just what they did, although it took more than a couple of afternoons. For more historical information on Hill Home, details regarding our stay at Santosha, and additional photographs from what you're going to see today, this PowerPoint, you can check out episodes number 109 and number 110 on my Writer's blog, backwardsblog.com. You can also go to Santosha's website, and they have a detailed history of Hill Home going back to 1895. Here we go. Okay, now it's working. So this is the original Hill Home mansion back in 1895 with the main barn. And you'll see this is one of the historical photographs that were on the walls at Santosha. And this is inside the grand salon. It's the old stairway that leads upstairs. And we arrive at the top of the staircase. That room you see to the back on the far left, that is the room where Linda and I stayed. And that is the front section of Hill Home, overlooking Kingfield. And this is a photograph I took. This is what it looks like today on that grand stairwell. And again, this is at the base of it, and that's the grand salon. This is where we had the opening circle when we arrived. And they do reading groups and book studies. And so a lot of the activities happen in this main salon. And this is one of the dining areas, one of the parlors. There's two parlors that could convert it to a dining area. And this is where we took our meals. And a different angle, this was a photograph that was on the Facebook page of Santosha. This is us in the dining room having our lunch, and that's taken from the stairway looking across the grand salon. I'm around the corner to the right. You can't see me eating. The food was exceptional with both vegetarian and omnivore options. A locally renowned chef operating in the kitchen from Kingfield. Santosha also features a fireside bar complete with local brews, which is what you'll see here. Brews on tap and a craft menu of Prohibition-era cocktails and mocktails. And this is a side angle. It's a sunken bar. So when you're seated at the bar, the bartender is at your head level, during the sunken bar portion. So it leads to an interesting interaction. I've never experienced that before. Santosha's bookcase library has a wide selection of spiritual books, a very cozy reading nook, which was upstairs, just around the corner from our bedroom. And Santosha is dog friendly. One of the guests brought along their dog, who joined the 3 Dharma dogs who are officially on staff. Pamplemousse, Amos, and Winnie, who are all Labradors. Amos and Winnie just being less than a year old. And you'll see some pictures of them in just a minute. And this is the yoga space at Santosha. And this is Jenny Best, or J.B. Chaim, the founder of Santosha and Carrabassett. J.B. started out as a successful corporate attorney for Latham and Watkins New York City, pre-yogic life, and then took several sabbatical adventures, which took her sailing. She's a sailor, took pamplemousse on the boat, and went to the Mediterranean, Atlantic, Caribbean. She lived in a Tibet Buddhist monastery in Nepal for a few months, studied yoga in Hawaii, and hiked the mountains of Argentine, Patagonia, and Camino de Santiago in Galicia. Eventually, she returned to the lakes and mountains of western Maine, where she spent many of her childhood years growing up. And Santosha is a special place where JB and Matt, her partner, manifesting a vision of community, spiritual practice, food, fun, and playing in nature. And this is a shot of Matt O'Donnell. He's a writer, he's a professor at Bowdoin, founded Fish House, which is a writing company. And here he is holding two of the puppies. This is Winnie on the left, Amos on the right. And the tragic news was Amos just passed away, unfortunate circumstances during the holidays. So, don't know the details on Amos. And Matt O'Donnell is also a trainer in mountain biking, telmar skiing, and alpine skiing. There's a lot of mountains close by. This is a shot I took when I went outside, and it was JB walking Amos and Winnie. And just after this picture was taken, the dogs escaped her grasp on the leash, and they come running at the cameraman, me, tackling me, and that's the last picture I got before the commotion cut loose. And this is one angle on the corner of the building that I liked. Blue sky in the cornice and some blue work on the building. Okay, so what we're going to do, it's a 5-minute interview that I did with JB while I was there. I told her about our theme here on Belongingness, and she agreed to answer a few questions. It's only 5 minutes. I have time basically for one question in this interview. And the music introduction on this turns out over a minute long. It's almost as long as the entire interview. So I'm giving a little filler here before we start. Short interviews and caffeine-induced ideas. James' 5-minute interview. And this is with JB. This is Dave's 5-minute interview, and today we have JB, owner and mastermind of Santosha on Carrabassett, Kingfield, Maine, a yoga retreat center, and so much more. Linda and I have been on retreat here the past 2 days, and we already feel like we belong. So what I'd like to find out is your take on belongingness and how that's playing out for you in your vision of Santosha.
Thank you for your interview first. That was kind of cool to do. Belonging, I think, is at the root of why we created this space. It started in my living room, and post a life in corporate law, where I felt like my life was governed by belonging simply by my professional identity, not by my values or by how I wanted to live my life. We asked very simple questions when we started the business, and the questions were, what do we want to do with our time? And I wonder if there are other people who want to do that with us. And so those questions led to answers like, we want to write and read and meditate. We want to practice yoga and cook and play outside, and we're sure people want to do that with us. And it turns out there are a lot of people And so when we created the space, it was in our home, and I think that lent itself to belonging, because folks came in and they knew we felt like friends. And I watched that happen again and again. I have this unique point of view, because I see waves of guests arrive at the park from Santosha. And they arrive, and there's that moment of, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so. And within 15 minutes, they're sitting around the dining room table, sharing their deepest, darkest secrets. And we just keep watching it happen again and again. And I believe it's because people do crave belonging. They crave connection and authentic belonging. And when there's space to do it, we're just creating a space, and they're flowing. So it's been really deeply satisfying.
In the bar, I was going to feature in the presentation.
I find that the bar has been a complicated question for us. We were trying to decide whether it would feel like safe space, especially because so many of our guests come to our space having made the decision not to drink alcohol. And so making sure that all of our spaces feel safe for everyone has been a big part of it. So we've done a number of cocktails and mocktails, and then make sure it feels cozy for everyone. And I think that, second to that is the Dharma conversations that we have often create that sense of belonging that people are looking for. When we sit down and we say, here's who I am, I'm not trying to be phony holy, I'm not trying to be, extra yogic, I'm just trying to be myself. All of a sudden people can settle into just being themselves here.
Well, I've noticed these Dharma conversations popping up everywhere. In the kitchen, the outside deck, continuing. And the food here has been incredible. So I find it to build community, food, good coffee, which Carrabassett coffee is the preferred bean around here, art, music, and people's stories. And be doing yoga together. Initially complete strangers, but after just one class or two class. Working hard, sweating together, doing the practice, and you walk away instant connection and end up walking a chat together. So, thank you for doing Dave's 5-minute interview. This has been a great chat. I know these are very quick, so I have a fast book. So thanks, JB.
Thank you.
That's all for today on Dave's 5-minute interview. Tune in next time for another caffeine-induced conversation, and we will see you then. This has been a Coffee Bun production. Feel the buzz. So there you have that. It is on our Rudy Holton YouTube channel if you want to watch it again. It's been there for a couple of weeks. I know we started the service late today, so I think I still have probably 5 minutes plus. And we'll see how far we get. I wrote down a lot of the quotes that JB said in this. So maybe instead of going over that today live, I'll put that on the support page so you can look at a few of those quotes that she said. She kept talking about it's not her professional identity that was driving her for the creation of Santosha. It was for values. And in Cohen's book, he keeps talking about values affirmation to explore as an individual and as a group. And that's exactly what she was touching upon in her list of the activities of what they were trying to do, creating this space. And she said, it feels like home, where people come and feel like friends. And the thing is, it can happen quickly. Now, on this weekend, it was a retreat setting, so it's intensive. We have an opening circle, introductions, you get to know people, and then you're spending every minute of the next 2.5 days eating together, conversations, hiking together, functions. So everything is intense. And then by the time the closing circle happens and you're saying goodbyes and loading up the car, it feels like you've packed an awful lot in 2.5 days in that model. And you'd ask, can you create a community in 2.5 days? A felt sense of belonging. And in this interview, I was trying to convey, it's like, Linda and I felt that way. You know, about halfway through the retreat, people who were totally strangers, who only had the same similar background, yogic background. You know, once you sit down and talk to them, they're all coming from different models. How much rent they're paying for their space, their demographic, the size of their studio, what type of spiritual teachings do they try to insert into their yoga practice. And it just led to, you had to ask a lot of questions and listen very closely to get to know, in this case, just 19 people showed up. But that's a lot of legwork and a lot of listening to how many of those people can you connect to over a 2.5 day period. Where here, like in a church setting, the group might be meeting once a week for 1 hour, plus a coffee hour, which might last for an hour. And then you don't see that person again, you know, for a week. And here, our activities are, there's a lot of talking, a little bit of singing, and some food. And a lot of conversations can go on during the service. You can collect information, people sharing, or during coffee hour. That's one reason years ago we started adding additional events into our calendar of the Unitarian Society. Not just meeting once a week, that's where the coffee house came from. We had a chance to meet in a slightly different context, with new people coming in with no connection to the church at all, but a shared space doing food, music, art, conversations, and networking as new people come to the area. The film night we were doing for a while, book discussion groups that we've done, specialty events, where at one time, for a small congregation such as ours, we would have a lot of sponsored events that were going on here. From a pizza night once a month going through the cafe. You'd have different people connecting to certain events they had an interest in. But there was a lot going on, and people could pick and choose how they wanted to connect here with us. And it's always kind of a Sunday morning would be the traditional chance to share ideas, worship. But that was one reason we expanded, that ways of connecting. It would always still come down like this, that 10 o'clock time slot on a Sunday morning was kind of the key where a lot happened. And Martha Newman was saying, it's the coffee hour after the service. More can be going on there perhaps than even a traditional 10 o'clock Sunday service. And so we started to explore that. So JB mentioned all we're trying to do is create space at Santosha. Cohen would call it situation crafting. So what I came up with, what I want to share this morning, are 4 points on building community. And we're not going to get a chance to get into a lot of detail on these, but I want to put it out there. And next week we're doing we have special music service going on and open pulpit. And we'll kind of decide what ideas, it may be more of a discussion group than open pulpit, but to explore some of these ideas or other things like the Mary service last week and other content from the series. But what I came up with on building community, number one is create the space, which is a physical space where you meet, and also creating an intentional culture, the situation crafting of what are the shared ideas, or what is the culture of that group, how do you treat each other. And that goes on to the second point of After create the space, you model the culture. During the opening circle at Santosha, JB herself modeled an introduction. In 2 minutes, she told us a lot about herself, personal things that I wouldn't think would come up. She's trying to model authenticity, transparency, and boldness in a model. This is the speed limit we can go and get up. How quickly can we accelerate? And she modeled that herself, and being that honest. And the next point, again, is connected to this. It's practice the values. So once you've created a space and you're modeling a culture, and you have these particular values that you share and affirm as a group, how do you practice those in a group? Like on the 4 agreements, how do you practice them like don't make assumptions during the coffee hour in your conversations? That'll just be an example. And in the bulletin today, you'll see this chart. And it breaks down values of belonging into inclusion, equity, and diversity. And it gives a little short definition of what those are. Those would be values of belonging. You're trying to create a culture in a group and practice those values. Creating clarity of what does it mean to have inclusion, equity, and diversity. A language for it, so it's clarity, and then accountability. How do you follow up practicing it and have a level, a bar of expectation of what can we expect from each other to maintain those values. In our case, our 7 principles, or the 4 agreements of impeccable speech, right speech. There's 5 now. There's probably going to be 6 before that. So this little chart we can look at more a little bit next week, but that's practicing some of those key values of what's included with belongingness. And number 4 is personal recognition, which works at 2 levels. It's an affirmation and appreciation of and respect for every individual in the group that happens to be there that day in that context, be it a member or just a visitor, or whatever the status is, you're in that space. So how do you affirm, respect, and appreciate and model that to the people in the group? But also, just as importantly, that personal recognition, how does that, what is your self-experience of that for yourself? Do you feel connected, appreciated? Do you have a role in the group? Are you integrated and feel like you're a part of it? So it's that dual aspect of your empathy. You're also trying to create space where everyone feels that way, including yourself, to make sure you fit in, even with belonging, uncertainty, and swings. Some weeks it may feel a little less or not so much, but you can always come back to the foundational, intentional culture and value of that group, to feel like a safe space, a sanctuary, and that you're a member, that you feel at home in that space. No matter how many times you may come during the year, twice a year. Like you mentioned, not having talked to someone for 20 years, and yet you can still connect instantly through an authentic conversation. You can quickly get that back. And there's a lot of religious language around that experience of return, separation, and time is not as much of a factor as you might believe. But oftentimes we feel trapped and locked into that with these uncertainties or wonder. So how quickly can this happen? All I'm going to say at this point is, if you have those 4 points in place that we just talked about, then it's ready to happen right now for anyone who walks into that space, and for oneself. my own experience at Santosha, that letter itself, with no strings attached, of being a free 2.5-day stay in the best room in the house, with amazing food, free services, except your bar bill and gratuities. That set the tone. Everyone suddenly, were receiving this great gift. And a response, I noticed that people had, how can I give back? They wanted to bring that experience back to their own yoga studios of service. What can I give? What can we do? After having that experience oneself, or being in a place that the culture operates in that manner, generosity, freedom, authenticity, and connectedness, it's an amazing experience. And looking back in your own life, you can find places, sometimes it happens at work, in families, in a specific relationship, and you'd like to think it would happen in churches as well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it has limitations placed upon it. And these are the challenges of building community. But I think these 4 points are something helpful to discuss and to see how much of that do we have in place here for ourselves. That we're building upon over 200 years of history here in this town and location. And how do we move forward with that as responsible heirs of that tradition, and tweaking and changing that tradition and deepening it as we go, as times and circumstances demand. Okay. We'll call that good for today. And now may the love of truth guide you, the warmth of love hold you on this day, and the spirit of peace bless you on this day, and in this week, and in the days to come. Amen.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you'd like to show your support, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and help us out by sharing this message by clicking the share button. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to you, Church Holton, there is a link to our online donations in the video description down below. And again, thank you so much, and have a blessed day.